Miss Gracie, you're looking beautiful.
Hello, Hailey. Thank you so much.
I love your makeup. You look gorgeous.
Thank you. We love to sing to each other, huh? Don't we? Thank you so much. You look so beautiful.
Oh, it's good to see you, my dear.
Same here. How are things in your neck of the woods of love?
Well, I am grateful beyond words that I have love in my neck of the woods
Uh
because
huh.
you gotta count your people and your blessings in a pandemic. That's for
You are the expert of marriage counseling and mentorship. You support those that are seeking love or in love or want to rekindle their love in their existing relationships, right?
absolutely.
So I want you to tell us about what you do in that area, but it doesn't stop there either because you also offer mentorship and coaching services for companies, corporations, and everything. So please give us a journey down the path of your excellentness when it comes down to lifted lid.
Thank you so much, Miss Gracie. The meaning of the name, the lifted lid, is because it's the opposite of when you're stuck. When you
Mm,
feel stuck, and perhaps you feel like you need a marriage counselor, a life coach, a psychiatrist, and a business consultant all in the same week, we know that's not going to happen. So,
no.
good people will come to me to get unstuck and will lift the lid. But in the realm of couples, my specialty is taking an existing couple that's lost their way and helping them find their way back to each other. Because
Mm,
marriage is about falling in love over and over again, just with the same person. And I
yeah.
love to teach couples the 5 steps they can take to redesign their relationship and the 6 skills that make loving each other not just possible and easy, but beautiful. Because without the steps and without the skills, it can be a battlefield, and it doesn't need to be that way.
So, one of the things you primarily focus on when it comes down to your couples as clients, you really specialize in infidelity, how to get
Mhm.
people to come back to that love they once have. But what I love about your services is you're not trying to force something that's not there. You go through a very rigorous program where you ask a series of questions to make sure in your mind from a professional perspective that they're both in the right space where their relationship can be saved and salvaged
Absolutely.
from a infidelity. So walk us through that.
I'm so glad you asked about that, Gracie, because the truth is, not all relationships are meant to be stayed in and meant to
Mhm.
repair. Not
Yeah.
all relationships are capable of repairing. And so the first question we have to ask is for a couple that's in struggle right now, whether it's infidelity or other struggle, is it in the highest good of both parties, not just one, of both parties to stay together? There are couples I have supported where one of them has come out about their sexuality, and it will never be safe for them to be in this relationship because they can't ever be who they are or who they're becoming. There are relationships that are physically dangerous, emotionally dangerous. And
Hmm.
so, if a relationship meets the test for being safe to stay in, then we take a look at the 6 criteria. And when it comes to infidelity specifically, we look at whether or not the person who has stepped out is remorseful, if they take full accountability, if they've cut off contact with that other person, if they're willing to provide proof of trust, as in while they're repairing the trust, that they're willing to live a full disclosure life. We
Mm.
also want to consider if the person that was cheated on, it's important that they're willing to take a look at whatever role they might have played in co creating the condition of the relationship before the infidelity. And finally, it comes down to do they both still want to be together? Are they willing to do the work and are they willing to get professional help? I've just never seen a couple mend after infidelity all by themselves.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. I've always been one of those people where I said there's no excuses for cheating. Once you've crossed that line, that's it. We're out, we're done and stuff. But
Let's pick on that, because
yeah,
that there are reasons for infidelity does
mhm,
not condone infidelity. And
that's
infidelity is a grave trauma in a relationship, but it isn't the only one.
right.
Imagine a couple where there's been 30 years of verbal abuse from one partner, and
Mm-hmm.
the other partner has a 3-month affair. How
Right.
do we judge from an integrity standpoint? How do we say that the integrity is a break of the affair is unforgivable, but 30 years of mistreatment is okay? So I've
Right.
learned to expand my context around infidelity and trust that there are always two people hurting. If you are a monogamous person by nature and you have committed adultery, if you are a monogamous person by nature, so that's the big if,
Mm-hmm.
chances are you've been hurting for a long time, unaddressed before the affair. Of
Right.
course, the person who is cheated on is devastated, but chances are their partner's been carrying around a lot of their own hurt as well, perhaps from their childhood, perhaps from a previous relationship, and perhaps from their relationship with their current partner. So I believe both people deserve care and support and figuring out.
You know what? You brought up some really good, valid points. Simply because one of the key things I was going to throw at you is I was going to remind you of a brief conversation we had previously about an ex of mine. You know, I was engaged before getting married, and it was a long term relationship. We've been together for 15 years. And this individual had a lot of baggage that I did not really understand or know for the whole 15 years that we were together. One, he had commitment issues. Two, in spite of his commitment issues, he also had abandonment issues
Mm.
because um, he identified with his flaws, and if he sees signs of his partner, me, or anyone like me, on the verge of, I'm done, I've had it, I'm throwing up the white flag, this relationship is over, I'm over it, or whatever, he starts cheating long before you can get to the breaking point of the relationship being terminated.
Let's
He,
talk about the cup theory, because this, I'm so glad you shared this story, Gracie.
well, let me
When
finish this. Let me finish this first for you because it might give a little bit more insight to whatever you want to share so that when people are listening to this, they may be able to relate to it. So, 15 years in this relationship with this guy, and he had obviously commitment issues because we were together for 15 years. Second, abandonment issues because he had multiple relationships. Of the 15 years I was with him, he had committed, if you want to call it that, relationships in long term with two other women, one for 5 years, the other one for 3 years. And the other two knew about me, but I was completely in the dark.
it's a lot. It's a
That's
lot
a
to
whole
go through.
lot. Yeah.
I want you to imagine you and any person, male or female, who's ever had their trust broken. When we look at the cup theory,
Mm-hmm.
inside of every partner, we have two cups. One is for our happiness, one is our love cup in that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in a relationship and your cup is filled with holes, holes from childhood abuse,
Mm-hmm.
holes from the not good enough complex, holes from insecurities, holes from wounds that haven't healed and scars that are still present, there is no amount of perfect love that a partner can put into your relationship cup that
No.
is ever going to have it feel full for a person that's bleeding out the bottom. And it's one of the first questions that a client will ask me. They'll say, what did I do wrong? Was I not attractive enough, successful enough? Did I not, meet their sexual needs? The truth is, if somebody's got holes in their cup, you can't
Yeah.
ever do it right enough to fill their cup, because it's their job to fix the cup before
Yeah.
we work on filling it. And that's somebody that, while they might orient as being monogamous by nature, their never enough complex is going to have them trying to stuff it in every direction that they can.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. It kind of takes me back to another guest of mine that actually frequents with us often. And we have lightly touched on certain topics. And one of the topics we've touched on that I can relate to in this conversation is you're responsible for your own happiness. You have to
Yes.
fix yourself in order to have any type of healthy relationship, marriage, dating, friends, family. People can't make you happy. My husband can't make me happy. He can do wonderful things to add to value to my life and to put a smile on my face. But if I'm an unhappy person, he can't make me happy. I have to
Exactly.
be happy internally with myself first before I can be happy in my relationship and my marriage with him.
Completely, Gracie. And you and I are of the same mind when it comes to that. I believe that it's our job to fill our own happiness cup, and that
Mm,
inside us, if we can envision these two cups, one that is our happiness, which is our job to keep full, so full that we have enough to spill over onto others. And only when we're in a relationship do we extend our love cup forward. See, when
yeah.
we're single, whether we're single parents, single adults, when we're single, it's our job to fill our own love cup.
Got something to say on that. Keep going.
Okay, you're so cute. I was like, she's about to tell me we're frozen. So when you're single, your love cup and your happiness cup, they're both your job. And when I mean
Mhm.
your love cup, you've got to romance you. You have to self-care and pamper you.
That's
You have to
right.
handle your own sexual needs. I mean, it is solely your job. But the moment you get into a relationship, what happens? Our happiness cup stays as our job. Our
Yep.
love cup gets extended forward between us and our partner, and we say, hey, now, since we're in a committed relationship together, I was wondering if some of the needs I've been meeting on my own could now be handled within our relationship, like appreciation and pampering and romance and sensuality.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so our happiness cup remains always our job. But where a relationship gets into trouble is when the cup's hanging out in the middle, nothing's happening.
That's right. That's right. And I'm glad you touched on this a little bit because I'm taking it slightly into a different direction, but kind of overlaps. One of the things that was a pet peeve of mine is people jumping into, and still to this day, you go from one relationship right into another. You are dealing with two personalities. My mother is extremely religious, and she used to say, "Ooh, when we're having intercourse, you're mingling your spirits and stuff like that." Whether that's true or not, I'm not going to debate that. But whether that's true or not, a lot of people feel as though you're intertwining your spirits when you're intimate and sexually with one another. I feel as though if that's true, in addition to that, you are picking up habits and developing and issuing habits of your own in between each other. So there's things like, for example, there's things that my husband used to do for years in the beginning of our relationship. And now I find myself doing it, whether he's around or not, I'll say it or do it in a humorous way. So we pick up each other's own habits, good or bad. When you break up, you need to, get in tune with yourself. You need to figure out, and this is something that I've always practiced to this day, take time for yourself, get to know you all over again,
Mhm.
figure out the pros and the cons of the relationship and take ownership for your shortcomings of that relationship, because you don't want to keep repeating dating the same type of people, attracting the same type of
It's
people.
so
It's
true.
not working for you. You also don't want to take the baggage from the past relationship into a new relationship that could be the right one for you, but you screwed it up because you
Let's do
took
a really funny
drama with you.
Here's a really funny visual for that. Makes your point is so bang on. Can you picture a French press, the thing you make coffee in?
Uh-huh.
So imagine you've just made a really strong part of a pot of organic, dark, bold coffee, and you've done it in your French press, and suddenly somebody comes over and says, I want tea. You say, hold on a sec. Let me just chuck the coffee grits out of my French press. I'm not even going to rinse the thing. I'm just going to go and put some water in here. And now I'm going to steep you some tea. And you
Uh-huh.
go and you drink the tea, and all you can smell is coffee
Coffee.
because we never got it clean in between. And
Never
so
cleaned it out.
we marinate and steep in our partner's nuances, their idiosyncrasies, their mannerisms, their values, the way they look at things. We
Yeah.
bump into their paradigms, and by osmosis, when you have that proximity closeness,
Yeah.
yes, we pick stuff up. And you do want a form of a detox and a cleansing in
Yes.
between relationships, because Gracie, one of my mentors said, wherever you go, there you will be. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
maybe the relationship isn't the problem, but the common denominator is we are the one that's in all of those relationships.
Well, here's another thing too, and that's why, Haley, I point out we also have to look at our inner selves too, see the pros and cons of that relationship. The relationship obviously broke up for a reason. There's a
Yeah.
reason why it's not working, and you're gone. However, there was a reason why you dated. So look at the pros, look at the cons, and take ownership of your shortcomings. What did you do wrong? Were you short with them? Did you talk over them? Were you self-centered? Were you kind and generous? And did you have a big heart, just didn't communicate it in an effective way? Whatever it is, the good and the bad, you take that, you own it, and you work on you. You stop dating so that you can work on you. And if you're smart, you would try to improve those areas. And the best practice is working on it with your relatives, your family, your friends, and practice it that way. And then once you recover from the pain, the disappointment, and the hurt of that previous relationship, then you ease back into another dating process, and not quick. Don't be quick to jump into the sack. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm innocent in any ways. I label people, like I said, this is a one night stand. I'm going to use it for what it is. But the people that I like, the people that I like, and I wanted to see where it would go, I slowed my roll. I wasn't quick to hop in the bed. I let it build in a shape into an organic um, way, and to see where it would go. And
And
stuff. But
here's the other
that's
piece
just
to
me.
it. Part of why relationships fail when they fail
Mhm.
is that fake person, best behavior mode, was introduced to and fell in love with fake person's best behavior mode. And when
Yep.
we land each other, whether we've moved in together, we got the I love you, sex has
Mhm.
happened, whatever land feels like for you, when we land that person, we say, ah, I'll stop
Got 'em.
shaving now. I'll take my mask off. I'm going to let the real me hang out now because I got this. And if I could share any wisdom that I learned between my first marriage imploding with a divorce and
Mhm.
finding my amazing husband 11 years ago, I decided to be 110% messy, raw, real, organic. I
Right.
wasn't going to try hard. I wasn't going to be agreeable. I wasn't going to say things that I thought he would want to hear.
Mhm.
We both just came in to be exactly who we really were. So there
That's
was
right.
no mask to take off. And then real person can fall in love with real person and they can work their stuff out. But
Uh,
love often starts completely bait and switch false. My
that's
best
right.
behavior fell in love with your best behavior. And here's the thing, guys, if what you're putting out as best behavior isn't sustainable, why do that to yourself?
That's
Your
right.
partner's going to want that for always. And if you can't give it, don't tempt them. Don't show something that isn't going to be there long term.
Hell, you can't put on an act forever. Even your
No, it's
even your
exhausting.
Hollywood actors eventually take off from playing the role of a character. Cut.
Well, it was hilarious. I was listening to a friend's podcast. They are hilarious. And they were talking about oral sex in marriage after kids, before marriage. And the husband was making fun of his wife, who, his sex drive is higher than hers right now. And he
Uh-huh.
said, honey, you used to give me those things. She goes, yeah, but that was before you married me. Now. And he said, I have a hunch that if we broke up and you were dating someone new, you'd give him all those things. She goes, yeah, because it
That's
would be
right.
new and I would have to. So, lesson number one, folks, if you aren't in love at the moment and you are looking for love, do you, be you. Like,
That's
be
right.
your best self, put your real self out there. Instead of don't work on yourself and put your fake self out there, first
Yeah,
become your best self. And then when you're dating, it's not about best behavior, it's put your real self out there. So if that new person falls in love with the real you, there's nothing you have to relax and settle into. You're already relaxed and settled.
that's
And
right.
10 years, 20 years, 30 years, there's no reason why you can't work on stuff when you've been real together. But it is a betrayal of
That's
trust,
right.
one that we don't call infidelity. When
That's
someone shows up in our dating, first year or 2 years as amazing, and then they retract all those things that took effort, that's a huge betrayal of trust. And
that's
in that
right.
time, Gracie, for you as an event planner, that's when some people are putting a ring on it, when they're
That's
still
right.
in best behavior mode.
Yep.
And then you start to go
Yep.
through the wedding planning. They start to look for a house together, and all of a sudden the real personalities come out, and it costs couples a fortune to be fake, fall in love, only to break up. You might as
Right.
well either stay single and love it, or let the real you find someone who's going to love the real you.
Absolutely. And with that being said, it's never too late to walk away. I walked away 1 month before my scheduled wedding the first time I was engaged.
Mm.
And I was fortunate, just like you. I am very blessed. My husband, the drive that he has for me in this relationship of ours is still as strong 8 years later from the time we first met. He
I love
is
that.
passionate in love with me. So I really lucked out. I paid my dues in kissing all those frogs. And
But
before I
Gracie,
got my
you also
prince,
you work on you and you keep yourself sharp and
I have
you
to.
personally grow and practice excellence in your career and your high integrity. You didn't just get him and then coast and he's wildly in love with you. You stay an impeccable woman so he stays wildly in love with you, and it takes effort
I
on both
appreciate that.
sides, right?
I never thought about it that way because my mother got very concerned. We met late in life. My mother got very concerned by the time I hit 40, I think my late 30s or early 40s. And I said, why the pressure? Leave me alone. I said, I'd rather die single, a cat woman, than to marry the wrong person. And if it takes that long for God to send me the right guy for me, then oh well, I'm going to patiently sit here and wait for that moment to happen and trust that the right one will come my way. And that's what happened. So
Mhm.
I was very, very fortunate. Now, before we get on to talking about what you do in the corporate world, I want to spend a brief moment sharing with people how you offer, how you collaborate, and what your mission is in the wedding industry. Because you did mention, what we do or what I do for a living. But, what's great about your marriage and couple mentorship program is that you are out there trying to certify wedding professionals so that they too can offer the greatness that you have to their couples and clients and save their relationship even before they get married because it's stressful planning a wedding.
It
That's
sure
when
is.
people become a runaway bride or groom like I was. I was like, I'm out.
Off the record, I did that twice too. So I'm so glad you brought this up, Gracie. This is a topic very near and dear to my heart. There are two things in life, three actually that we are ill prepared for, but all of us need to deal with. One
Mhm.
is we don't get trained on how to practice family values, whether it's with parents, parenting children, or helping to raise the adults in our life. We
Mhm.
don't get trained on financial abundance, and we sure
No.
don't get trained on loving relationships.
Yep.
And my wish is for every couple who's choosing to spend their life together that they could receive the simple training on what is the 5 steps to design an incredible relationship and what are the 6 skills to make love easy. And who best knows when a couple is young in their love together and promising forever, but a wedding planner? So
Yeah.
I love to certify wedding planners to become marriage planners. So any couple that they take into their business that they're going to plan a beautiful wedding day, let's also teach them how to have a beautiful wedded life together. Because it is not just about the photos and the memories on those 8 very expensive and loving, fun filled hours. The purpose of the wedding is to start their committed life together. And I love equipping wedding planners and other professionals that service couples, such as birth doulas, even
Mhm.
with how to pass on in a short few-hour workshop these skills to their own bridal couples. Because I've talked to a lot of planners off the record, and they said, Hailey, I've had that lump in my throat more times than I'm proud to tell you, where I wondered if the couple would make it through the day. I
Yeah.
wondered if they would make it to the wedding. And I felt icky doing their wedding because I wondered how soon were they going to call me for the divorce party and the next wedding. And
Mhm.
so we can lovingly support our global population of couples who are committing lives together by equipping them with these tools necessary for having successful love. And that's something that really, really excites me. So if you are a wedding planner or you are in a profession where you touch couples, you love to help couples, you support them in one capacity, but not quite on this coaching side. It is a simple process, and within 30 days, you are certified and able to go and teach love skills to couples who, trust me, really badly need them.
Wow.
This marriage preparation class is a dying art. And with so many interfaith couples, who is going to teach you that class if you're getting married on the beach somewhere?
Yeah, that's right. Because I think we talk about this too. I said, I find it hard to believe that because of a pandemic, you all of a sudden can't tolerate your spouse, your significant other. You can't stand the sight of them. You can't stand the way they chew. And I get it. Yes, you spend 9 hours away from home working and all that kind of stuff. But what are you going to do when you get retired? If it wasn't for the pandemic, when retirement came, you was going to spend 24/7 with each other. What were you thinking? So if you
And
can't
what if we're lucky? What if
yeah,
we're lucky to retire at 55 and live with our partners till 100? What if we're lucky and we have 45 years where not all our parts are working and
yeah,
not all of our obligations are tugging? I mean, if we can't do a 1 year pandemic together, the retirement years are looking a little
it's
grim.
looking pretty rough. So that to me, I understand that this was a very stressful time for people in so many ways on so many levels. But I still do not accept the pandemic as an excuse for why people are entertaining divorcing and separation because of that theory of what you we just said. I feel as though that to me it tells me you just married for the wrong reasons. Maybe you were desperate and wanted to get married. You're in love with the idea of marriage. You're in love with the idea of being in a relationship for convenience, loneliness, whatever it may be. Get
There's
married for
another
the right
piece.
reasons.
Yeah, there's another piece which I've noticed through the pandemic. It's similar to when a couple is dealing with aging parents or trauma
Mm,
outside of their relationship. We
yes,
all handle trauma differently, and the pandemic has been a universal trauma that
that's
has
true.
touched everyone in some way. So imagine a couple that were fairly in sync, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them handles trauma with personal growth,
That's
coaching,
true.
workshops, reading, meditating, exercising, cooking healthy, and going on a cleanse. The other person handles the trauma of, say, the pandemic with 4 more drinks a day, 5 hours of TV a day,
Mm,
not waking up,
that's
never getting
true.
out of pajamas, listening to the news 6 times a day,
Oh,
dread,
yes,
gloom, fear. So
yes.
we
And
could
eat,
have been
gaining
kind of
weight.
in sync. Yeah, we could have been kind of in sync, but our trajectories start to change. When a
Yes.
couple is growing, they're not always growing in the same direction. And I
Mm.
believe, Gracie, that the pandemic has done the same thing that time and money do. They don't
I
change people.
agree, Helly. I did not look at it that way. I completely agree with you. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that's going, what are you talking about, Gracie? Thank you, Helly. Thank you.
Here's the thing, my dear. Time, money, pandemics, trauma, it's not that they change us. It's that they bring to light more of what we've been keeping below the surface. And
Yeah.
so, if you are a generous person and a lot of money is bestowed on you, you will be more generous with it. If
Mm-hmm.
you are a selfish person and a lot of money is bestowed on you, you will be more selfish with it.
That's right.
Trauma and time are kind of the same. So, when trauma is upon us, which the pandemic is,
Mm.
it's going to expose our natural things we've been keeping below the surface, like I am resilient or I am not. I seek help or I do not. I lean in or I avoid. And that's why I think so many couples are experiencing this wedge,
Mm.
is because you're looking at each other for the first time in a long time going, how did I miss that? But yeah, there were signs, but
Right.
I was too busy to notice them. And now that I see you
Or
all day
didn't want
long,
to see them
bingo, that
because
too.
they now that they've gotten so big till it's overwhelming for the person who's receiving it or seeing it. It's gotten so big, it's difficult to avoid it and ignore it and stuff. So yeah, some people see things and just go, okay, that's just an oversight. I'm sure we can work through that. That's minor. What's minor is now massive.
Major. And I think there's one other part with the pandemic. We've all heard the line that says absence makes the heart grow fonder. And while I am not a fan of being in a long distance relationship, we
Yeah.
know what kind of love and sex you have when you've been missing someone, and it's
Mhm.
different than when you're with them all the time.
Yes.
So if the pandemic has affected a couple where they have so much time together and they are confused into thinking it's quality time. So they've stopped planning quality time. They've
Mm.
stopped planning dates. They've stopped planning special evenings. They've stopped getting out of their PJs and, put in something nice on for each other. Then we have been confused by the amount of time that it was quality, and it isn't. Proximity,
I
closeness,
love that.
not the same as quality time. And couples
Ugh,
have been artificially filling their time cup with,
yes.
I see you all day long. Yeah, but when did I see you? When did I last feel you? When did we
Yes.
last make the time? Like folding laundry, doing dishes, cooking, working on our computer is different than a sacred date time together. And I think a lot of couples have woken up to go, oh my goodness, we haven't done anything special in 11
Yeah.
months.
I'm telling you, it's the littlest things that matter, Helly. And I agree with you 100%. That's why it was difficult for me to really relate before now to people entertaining divorcing and separating and all that kind of good stuff. Thank you. All that kind of good stuff for wanting to, end their relationship and all that and everything. But not for nothing, you have to put that work in. You just have to work even more harder because of this pandemic, because of being in quarantine. So, give you an example. My husband and I both work from home.
Mhm.
And in addition to what we're up against and facing with the pandemic, we're literally like, what is it called? Hermits. We're literally hermits, stuck in our home, doing everything within our home. And you would think that we would go crazy, driving each other crazy and everything. But no, I went in a couple of nights ago, I went into our master bedroom to take a shower, and he was sitting there asking me, how was your day? What's going on? Oh, it's okay, went in there, and then all of a sudden I was like, I started getting undressed to take a shower. So I figured, let me give him a quick strip tease. And he was like, what are you doing? And he was not looking at me. So I got in front of the TV, which is a 55-inch TV. And I was like, "Duh, duh, duh, duh." I was demanding his attention. And then just 2 days ago, he sits in the living room on the second floor to work. That's his office space in the living room. And I come downstairs. He's sitting there watching TV after working. And I straddle him and I said, "Oh, I'm going to do a scene from a movie." I wrote the movie and it's in my head. And I'm making out with him. I said, "It's a love scene." Shh, 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 shh. And I'm making out with him. And I said, "Cut." "Okay, what's my line again?" "All right, great. And scene." "Oh my God." And he says, "You're crazy."
But
So,
Gracie, look how easy you make it for this man to stay in love with you. It is not
yeah,
without effort into keeping your
I'm
relationship.
goofy. And I know I'm not sexy, but the idea of me trying to be sexy makes me look sexy to him. And it's more my personality that is sexy to him, not how well I can look, seductive and stuff like that. I dance for him, I do everything. He says, we'll watch a movie and he'll say, "Gracie, reenact that scene." I said, "Okay, it's a fighting scene." And I get up like a hey, yeah. He says, "You're crazy." So it's you got to make the best of it. You marry a person for a reason. If you love them, if they're your friend, you get along with it. You keep thriving off of that, no matter what the circumstances are.
And one of the reasons you and I get along so beautifully is we do not take a passive backseat bystander role in our marriages. It's one thing as a woman, I can only relate to being as
Yeah.
a woman,
Hmm.
to lie in your bed at night, rolling your eyes, going, well, maybe if my husband wanted something, he would put some effort into it. Maybe he would do this. It's a whole other to just be assertive and
Yes.
play an active role. So if I want something to happen in my marriage, like last night, I am lighting the incense. I have
Yeah.
taken the bath. The playlist is on. The
That's
songs are
right.
picked on purpose on the playlist. I'm offering a massage. We can wait for love to happen to us, like being at the grade 8 dance where everyone's lined
Right.
up on the wall waiting for someone to ask you, or we can make love happen in our relationships by
That's
bringing love, by putting love, by taking actions. And will we sometimes be let down? Sure. But if you can't be vulnerable with the one you want to love forever, where can you be vulnerable? That's probably a
right.
sign that it's not a safe place.
It's absolutely true. And as a result to it, my husband loves everything about me. In fact, he says, "I love watching you eat. You eat like an inmate from prison." He says, "But it's adorable." He says, "But it's so adorable. You don't try to be, elegant, and you have no shame to your appetite." I said, "Darn right, I don't."
Give me those French fries. What you looking at?
Ah. And I had my mouth full when he said that. I said, "Really? You think so?"
But
But
you're so
yes,
real, Gracie, and real is lovable.
yes.
Fake is not lovable.
No,
Not
it's
not
not.
for real, not for a long time. And
No,
so
it's
I
not.
give your Marty a ton of credit for being an amazing husband, but you also make it easy because you are a dynamic, fun, juicy for life kind of person. And that takes us back to what you were saying in the beginning, which is
Mhm.
in order for a relationship to thrive, relationship is made out of two people. If they're
Yeah.
both broken, we're going to have a broken relationship. And so if we've got these two people, these are the only two ingredients we're putting in, we got to make sure we're putting in good ingredients. And so we're working on our own mental health. We're working on our own physical health. We're working on our own mindset. We're making sure that we sleep right. We've got a spiritual practice if that's important to you. We've got a
Yeah.
hobby, a passion, a career we like, or a retirement we've designed. But if we are being our best selves, well, it's so much easier for love to thrive. But love can't make addiction, depression, anxiety, and trauma scars go away.
No.
Self love can do that.
Self-love. That's right.
Self love.
You know what? That's our time for this interview. Well, I would love for you to come back so that we can touch on the other side of your business and all the other wonderful things that you do with the corporate world. because this conversation just really took a deep dive, and I'm sure it was well needed for so many people, if not just for us, to really focus and home in on the relationship part. So, Hallie, would you mind coming back and visiting with us?
Let me think about it for no seconds. Miss Gracie Jones wants me to come hang out with her. Yes, please. I adore you. I appreciate you. You do such amazing work, Gracie, and you care
Oh,
about people so much.
I do.
You have a heart of gold. You are professional, you are excellent, and you are so much fun. So if we can laugh like this and talk about really good stuff, I'm in 100% of the time.
Awesome. Sit tight. Don't go anywhere. Guys, I'm going to share a whole lot of information with you for my friend Haley. Get in contact with her. She's amazing to work with, and you won't have any regrets.